So, a very warm welcome to ET Studios, ET HR World, and Coursera. I'm Devina Lasson, and today we're going to take a deep dive into empowering your talent to power your business. In a world where business landscapes are evolving at an unprecedented pace, skills have become the new currency of success. In fact, according to the World Economic Forum, by 2025, half of all employees will require reskilling, and yet traditional learning models are failing to keep up. The challenge isn't just about upskilling, it's about delivering the right skills at the right time in a way that aligns with both individual aspirations as well as the business objectives. Now, to address these critical matters and much more, we have joining us today an esteemed panel of guests. Ravi Kumar, CDO, Excite Industries. Sonia Paul, Head Training and Development, GMR Group. Kavneet Kaur Meher, Associated Vice President, Human Resources, CK Birla Group. And Arushi Agarwal, Head of Coursera for Business India. Right, very warm welcome to ET Studios. Thank you all for being here. Such a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, you're all leaders, of course, in the HR community at large. You're absolutely industry experts to talk to us a little bit about the shifts that we're seeing when it comes to talent, hiring, retention, and much more. Of course, what we're really here to deep dive into is how the future of the workforce is redefining organizations ultimately, how organizational structures are going to change thanks to the future of the workforce, and what does it really take for organizations to stay ahead of the curve and to stay relevant in rapidly evolving times. So, Ravi, maybe we can kickstart with you for an opening comment on how you see this panning out in the coming years.
I think the talent development is a key driver for any organizational success today. Some of the shifts that we are seeing is a lot more focus on tech, right? Even in functional roles. The expectation on person being able to use tech and also AI to a large extent. And the second shift I'm seeing is very cross domain hirings now, right? Earlier it always used to be a preference that if the person is from the same domain, same industry, we typically look for such talent. Now I'm seeing a very drastic shift where the preferences are more on skills rather than experience, right? So what skills does the person carry and all of that? Yeah, these are the two comments I would make.
Wonderful. We'll deep dive into that as well.
Yeah.
Before that, Sonia.
So I see a huge shift taking place in terms of workforce skills and also talent development initiatives being launched across organizations. One very important challenging factor which I see is people are on a scurry to imbibe, enhance knowledge, apply for new skills. So I believe the scurry is not important. What is important here is that we find leaders even struggling when you look at application of knowledge. So what's important here is that in an ambiguous landscape, how to apply knowledge when it matters most. This I feel is a very critical skill which will differentiate leaders in terms of application of knowledge, because with the digital transformation taking place and everybody on an AI platform and wanting to acquire one new course in AI, I think that will be very, very critical, and having a executive workforce which knows and which has the wisdom to differentiate critically between the various skills which are needed at a particular time to navigate your own business imperatives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Kavneet, would you like to add to that? And again, what does it take for organizations to stay competitive in this day and age when it comes to talent pool?
See, when you look at talent, right, every single organization that you speak to will basically talk about having the need for right talent in the right role, right? Whether it is internal or external. So, one part is the technology part, right? Where people need to actively imbibe technology in their daily lives, in whatever role they are doing. The other part is, the putting the thinking cap on. Creative thinking, right, is another soft skill that the business leaders need to do. That's something probably which is not, really top notch, and that's the one which will be the key differentiator.
True. Fascinating, of course, because the conversations are all around technology, but creative thinking, creative leading is also such an important part of the process. Wonderful. Thank you. Arushi, how about you in your experience, of course, working with a variety of organizations across the country, across the globe? What is your experience and what it really takes for organizations to stay ahead of the curve these days?
Absolutely. And I loved how the leaders started where immediately we were talking about skills And from there, immediately we spoke about the application of skills. Just, dormant skills are not enough. And I love the point on how creativity. So if I were to bring some statistics, so Microsoft study says that about 40% of all technology investments made by companies are not utilized because of the lack of human capability of harnessing that technology, right? So that is so relevant in our roles for that being existent. And now, with the advent of AI, the repeatable tasks are something that can be done. But everything which is related to first principles thinking is where humans are required to do a lot more, right? Because otherwise, they're just doing tasks which automation can do on their own. So, World Economic Forum study shows that the top in-demand skills are what we used to call the soft skills, which are a lot harder than we have realized. So I think the ability to be able to combine available skills and technology and then take it to the next level is something that we are seeing. And given these technologies are available to all companies, there is definitely something to be done in terms of how do you really stay ahead and not become a laggard. So I think we're living in a very interesting time seeing all these things that play together.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you all for the opening comment. Ravi, now to go one step deeper. Of course, everything we're talking about today really points at the fact that organizations have to be agile, right? We're looking at, again, different demand from the marketplace. We're looking at a difference in how organizations are functioning, training their in-house employees. But all of this requires agility. So, in your opinion, what does it take really for organizations to ensure that agility stays alive, especially in today's day and age where it's absolutely critical?
Yeah, I think couple of points that I would point out here. One is that their daily performance, right, needs to be in a way structured to what their skills are and how they are able to apply that skills to what outcome they are able to achieve, right? If you are able to tie these together in terms of his performance evaluation, which typically need not be done once in 6 months, right? If he's given regular feedback on what he's doing and what is it leading to, right? That makes the person more agile. And also the second part of this is we need to support them so that they don't feel that they are being monitored on ongoing basis, right? It is more to support them to perform better. So there are two aspects to it. One, how do we support them to show that whatever they are doing, what is it leading to, right? And second, whatever is the gap that they're not able to achieve, what ecosystem are we giving them so that they're able to improve on their performance. I think this is in totality will lead to more agility and more people being able to quickly react to new changes.
Sure. What are some of the big challenges that you face, though? Because as you rightly said, no employee wants to feel like they are being constantly monitored or told perhaps that they are not really meeting the mark. So, what are some of the big challenges? How do you address those?
Two, three challenges. One, lot of the world has also now become hybrid, right? So one of the challenges that since we are not talking to them, lot of the feelings that they have maybe are also not getting communicated, right? So it only realizes when you are doing a half yearly performance conversation, you unearth lot of fears, etc., or anxiety that the person had, right? So this is one challenge that we've not figured out how to crack this in a hybrid working kind of an environment. How do we get feedback from people more regularly? Right. So this is one key challenge. Second key challenge is continuous cross skilling and upskilling. How much ever we want to do it, and how much ever platforms are available, finding the time and the right balance of what skill to acquire, which will lead to that delta impact in his performance, right? Because there is so much of content which is available. How do you curate that content for that individual so that his performance goes up is the second challenge I want to put on the table.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for that. Sonia, love to get you in on this. So, again, what does it take for organizations to stay agile in today's day and age? And some of the key challenges that you're facing in this way?
So I think we have a mammoth task ahead of us, particularly every organization, in terms of upskilling all their employees, because that's the buzzword. And every employee, as well as those at the behest of the organizations, want that every employee should be upskilled. So I think one most important challenge is that we are also looking at mass upskilling programs running across the length and the breadth of the organizations, which will also have to be divided into various buckets, looking at the skills which every workforce which is in demand in every functional area. So we'll have to kind of drill down to allocating roles, jobs, skills to the kind of function or upskilling program that they need to undertake. So the work of the team becomes much more, particularly learning and development teams who are working harder in terms of upskilling every employee, and most importantly, to maintain the morale of the people who are going through an upskilling program. The communication has to be right. Why I am undergoing this program? Am I good for it? Or is it just to enhance my skills? And again, I'm coming back and looping in my point here, application. If an employee doesn't see that an upskilling program is leading to any particular project where he can implement the newly acquired skill, he soon loses the motivation to enhance his own skills. So it should be linked to a project, and that is what we are doing in our organization. We are running a huge upskilling initiative, but linking it to projects so that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, that I'm going to be implementing my newly acquired skills in cloud computing, it could be cybersecurity, it could be in AI, to a new project on which I'll be a part of. Also, this enhances bonding across various functional groups. So this is a huge task. It's not easy. I would say it's not like a magic wand and you say that you've done it all. It'll be a 3 to 4 year vision ahead, which we need to plan and very meticulously, because we are addressing people. It's not just a mechanical project. Here it's very important to address people. Also, we need to keep in mind retention. So one key challenge which every organization is facing, that though you are giving new skills to your people, what's important is to retain these people who have acquired these skills. So we'll have to keep various schemes on, motivating people, counseling, like Ravi said, just to keep them engaged so that they are contributing back to the organization.
Absolutely.
That's what's very
I would
important.
like to add a point, especially on these structured learning programs.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are not seeing too much success now. The new age employees who are coming, they actually look for continuous reinforcement and feedback.
Right.
So instead of sending somebody in a program, say once in 6 months, where I go and say learn Six Sigma, now I don't know where to apply it, right? So I've sat through the program, I went through the content, everything happened, but now when I go back to my job, I don't know how to use it, right? So what they are expecting is, and to your point on agility, right? It has to be a continuous reinforcement, upskilling, rather than programs where 50 people come and sit in a classroom. Although that does very good on engagement and collaboration, right? Because you get to learn from peers, and the peer learning is also good because they would ask some questions which you would not have thought. At the same time, the challenge is, how do I support this person in his daily job? When he's applying that, what is he falling short on? So that gap is something we need to figure out how technology can fix.
Wow, very interesting. And to your point, and Kavni, love to get you in on this. What role do you see AI? Of course, we can't have any conversation on the future of the workforce, the talent pool, without talking about AI. What role do you see AI playing? Let's say in this case, about the with the upskilling programs, and like Ravi's mentioning, identifying those gaps and really filling the gaps in the skill base.
So I think Ravi and Sonia spoke about two aspects. One was around employee engagement, retention. The other was around the entire upskilling, cross-skilling, right? Let's first tackle the engagement part of it. I think the challenge is when the organizations really want to know what is that first moment when the employee starts having a doubt, is it the right place for me, right? It's that first moment of detachment. Many organizations are now actually using in employee engagement platforms where somebody anonymous will really reach out to employees to take feedback, just to monitor and sense, just that dipstick to see what is that first moment of detachment, so that appropriate steps can be taken, right? The other part is when you look at the upliftment of skills across employees. I think when you're looking to be agile, employees are expecting you to contextualize it to the role that they are in. They are also expecting employers to personalize it to the level and the skill set they already have, right? So contextualization and personalization in terms of the learning journey, where AI can help in this case would be to create learning journeys. So let's say if I'm an employee and I say that I want to be so and so in next 5 years, that's my game plan, and this is the role that I'm doing currently. These are the past roles that I have done. This is the skill set I have. So AI can really enable creating that personalized learning journey
Sure,
for that
yes.
individual.
Okay, okay. And again, another very interesting point Ravi brought up is the gap that you're seeing in generations, right? Because we're looking today at the Gen Zs who surely have a very different approach to learning, skilling, upskilling than millennials and so on. So, how are you, first of all, are there any gaps like this that you can share in your experience, and how are you
So,
addressing them?
multi generations, if you see, right? If you see the generation today, very, very tech savvy. But their span of attention, I would say, is extremely
Sure.
poor.
Yes.
So what works for them is a bite-sized learning, visuals, right? Videos. What may work for the other generation on, let's say, baby boomers or millennials or the next ones would be actually slightly more expanded courses, maybe going more in depth, maybe more of concepts, conceptual clarity, rather than really bite-sized. So it's different strokes for different
Sure,
folks. Honestly.
absolutely. Yeah. And Arushi, of course, you're nodding in agreement here. You surely have vast experience through Coursera of not only dealing with intergenerational gaps, but multilingual. You're dealing with geographies across India, across the world. So, how does Coursera really step in to aid organizations, whatever the need is, according to the different zones, according to the different age gaps?
Yeah. So I think personalization is something that we have all wanted for a very, very long time. And all of the discussions that we had around, for example, I think you were alluding to the 70-20-10, where the 10 can be structured, but the 70 part of the learning needs to be on the job, needs to be applicable, it needs to be engaged, it needs to be for various people in their roles. So, Coursera was founded by two Stanford professors who specialized in AI. So, for us, it feels like it's come a little bit of a circle where we have the ability to provide products and technology to the people and learning leaders to be able to solve some of these problems. So, for example, the way we've looked at it is content quality is paramount. That is something that we can't compromise on, which we have. Within that, do we want a bite-sized learning? Do we want a full module? Do we want it to be an aggregate of different instructors? Do we want companies to be able to enter their own flavor? So for that, we've created Course Builder, where in 10 minutes you give instruction to AI, which says, this is what I want created in an environment of correct content. So, that's how we really are able to solve the personalization challenge. The second is about engagement. We still need the engagement despite being in a asynchronous manner. Again, AI has come to our rescue, where we've created what we call as Coursera Coach, where you can literally ask, I've done Six Sigma, how does this apply to my job as, working on the shop floor along the assembly line, and give me a real life example. And then the AI will be able to dialogue with you. And we've taken this one step further, where we've said through Coach Dialogue, the company can enter their manuals and pages of the good content which nobody can remember. But AI can do a great job of contextualizing that. So, that's what we've done on the interaction and the absorption. And then, of course, hands-on labs is something that we always would propagate, because unless you've learnt it, even if it is as simple as Excel or, a Tableau, if you've not done the hands-on, chances are you've not absorbed it. So through all of these things, we're really seeing the power of learning to be coming in. And then for this to be augmented through actually our people seeing the difference in their day-to-day productivity. Because at the end of the day, all of this is towards productivity and benefit. So yeah, very, very exciting to be able to do this, to get feedback from leaders that, this does actually work. And for learners who are extremely important, they are the end customers of everyone probably talking about this topic, for them to be able to be self-motivated and not just do it as a tick box because they're required to by their organization. So seeing some very, very good early signals on these areas.
Excellent. And very fascinating point that's come through the panel, of course, is the essence of creativity, right? Because no matter what AI tools we have or upskilling, reskilling programs exist, the creativity of the individual is very important. So, how do you think, and this question is open for the entire panel, what does it take for organizations to be future ready using AI, using all the emerging technology, but also balancing out the inherent creativity of the individuals? Ravi?
No, that's a tough one
That's a tough
actually.
one.
Yeah.
I know.
I
If
think it's a
anybody else would like to.
combination of AI plus a human coach or mentorship that we used to give, right? Which can give him constant feedback on what are the strengths and for that individual to play to his strengths, right? And not just get lost in so many skills which is to be acquired. Because every individual obviously cannot be good at everything, right? So I think it has to be a combination
Yes, yes.
that can work.
Mentorship. Wonderful. Sonia?
I think
Kavni?
when it comes to individuals and humans, right, there are three ways typically anybody learns. It's learning by knowing, learning by doing, learning by being, right? That combined with AI, I think organizations would be really able to create and fulfill that gap for that particular individual.
Yes. Where do you think we're at in that journey? Because, of course, that sounds like the ideal end goal. But organizations, really, let's say in the India context, where do you think we are at in that process?
I think at this point of time, it's very early stages. Specific modules which organizations feel are for mass roles, they are the ones which are really being put into AI, and really, put into bite-sized learnings. But when it talks about, let's say, management development programs, those are something which are actually left best to classroom, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's where organizations have obviously not taken the leap of faith and
Yes.
still continue in the old
Yes.
teaching mode.
Yes. A lot to see yet in this space. Wonderful. Sonia?
Yeah, so I would say that a balance of AI and creativity is very important, just like it exists in the human brain. The left brain, which is for logic, and the right brain, you're looking at a creative side. So, very important that in organizations also we have that balance. So, creativity we need to encourage because that's the voice of the soul and which needs to be given that outlet. So, even in classrooms, we do have, interpersonal simulations, interpersonal ideas and games and other things so that, just doing rote learning by sitting in front of a computer or a machine and clicking on programs and moving and doing assessments. You also need to interplay, you also need to discuss that with your own groups and cohorts and syndicates. And so syndicated exercises also help in bringing about creativity. So whenever we are designing programs, we need to keep into mind that it's not just an intellectual input where there are 18 hours programs, 19, 30 hours learning in front of the computer so they can do it anytime. That's right, they can do it anytime. But one, it impinges on your personal time also. But at the same time, you need to interact with your own colleagues because the whole idea is that ultimately we want you on projects which are cross functional. So it must translate into that. So whenever we are designing programs, we have to look at an interplay of all these skills so that they are effective. Otherwise, 40 hours, 50 hours of learning can easily be, just an intellectual overrides and can get dissolved.
True. Interesting. Thank you. And Arushi, again, you do come with a lot of authority on especially the subject of AI, as you mentioned, the various tools that Coursera offers. So again, how do you see the balance being struck, but also you're utilizing AI to cross all kinds of barriers, as we've spoken about geographical, linguistic barriers as well. So again, how do you really harness the power of AI and everything it has to offer with keeping in mind the human element?
Yeah. So I think earlier in the conversation, we spoke about how creativity is something which will continue to be unique to humans. So if I were to extend the example, we often talk about how AI can do a lot, but it can only do as much as the question that it is asked because it has a world of inputs available. So, our former CEO actually created a course which said using AI as a thought partner. You can use AI as a search engine, you can use AI as a query mechanism, but how do you use it as a thought partner where the question that you're asking and the next level of thinking that you're doing is what will truly be able to harness the power of that. So I think that is where the power of human creativity comes in, being able to ask those questions. And if I were to really make this live, use cases which are developed as an outcome of this learning, right? There is a lot of organizations that come to us that say, I want Gen AI foundations for everybody, because how do they apply it in their roles is a function of actually knowing it. But then sky is the limit in terms of what we can do. So many tools that we have at our disposal today, is the creativity applied with the LLMs, for example, right? Because they are nothing more than large language models. So I think that is where we are seeing a lot of help in using this as a thought partner. The second thing that I would say is context is very important. Without organizational context, without role based context, it will be the same for every individual who will really look into it. So being able to enter your context. A simple example, let's say you're going for a meeting with an exec for with another company. Let's say there is a person in the field. Something as simple as pointing the annual report, entering this into an LLM model and saying, given my organization and what we can read here, what are the most important factors that we can solve in collaboration, and for that to then lead to the conversation. So asking this question is the creativity part, and then AI supports in actually bringing all these things together and making it efficient. So I think people who are able to do this well are really the rock stars and are paving the way for
It's
everyone.
the right chat prompts that you put in
Yes.
with the right keywords, as they say.
Yes. That's the creativity. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for those examples. Before we wrap up the panel, if each of you could share your key takeaway for our viewers today on what it really takes to empower your talent pool to empower the business.
Sure.
Ravi?
So I think 3 key takeaways for me. One is you need to balance use of technology as well as interpersonal skills with learning with peers and other humans. Obviously, bite-sized learning, personalization, contextualization of learning is the new trend. And the last one is it is important to use your own strengths, be it on the creative side or the soft skill sides, and not get lost in the entire maze.
Yeah, so one of the key takeaways for me is that AI is at its nascent stage right now in India, so it has its limitations, and we should use its strengths in whatever way we can. Number two is, of course, that learning with objectives. Your objective toward which you're guiding a training program has to be very specific. And most importantly, we are into the business of people, and people skills are very important. So those should not be diminished in whatever program we are designing. So those are my key. And thank you very much for being a great partnering with everyone here and for this opportunity.
Absolutely. That's the point of these conversations, to share our thoughts, knowledge, and come up with the best possible solutions moving forward. Kavneet?
I think AI is here to stay.
Yeah.
That's the given, right?
Yes, nice.
It's only a matter of time when AI will probably take over some of the larger routine tasks, larger routine areas in terms of when you look at HR, creating learning journeys for mass roles, looking at. But I think what is the important element here is that one, democratization of learning. So as individuals, no matter where we are, which organization we are, I think employees feel the need to have freedom to learn what they want, right? It could be something within their domain. It could be something that they want to do 5 years or 10 years later. I think that for me is the important key takeaway.
Absolutely
And thank you so
wonderful.
much
Thank
for
you.
being
Thank you. And
hosting me.
Arushi, of course, you have the challenge of closing, giving a closing comment and pulling together, of course, everyone's points here. Leave the floor to you.
I've had the pleasure of meeting with so many leaders over the last 2 years. I feel like we were able to cover so much of what was just abstract thoughts over the last 2 years, right? Where there were some non-believers who said it's just a trend, to ones who were skeptics who thought, it's going to lead to challenges, to now I think we're coming to a place where we're understanding how AI is going to help. And even the ones who are at the grassroots are realizing that this is here to augment our roles, not to take away our roles, right? So maybe the one thought that I would say is AI is not going to take away jobs, but those who are going to use AI are going to take away the jobs of those who don't. So, probably something which is a much more positive spin on how we previously looked at things.
Thank you. That's quite food for thought that you leave us with. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. It's been really wonderful. Thank you for being on ET Studios and sharing all your insights today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.